Hi there, I'm Kat and this is Sally, the author and illustrator of A Rabbit's Tale. We've got a couple of questions today which are going to talk you through our process and how we came up with this book that we've illustrated and authored. So, what is the book about?
So A Rabbit's Tale is about a little rabbit called Ralphie who becomes so overwhelmed with stress and anxiety in his life that he decides to run away from home. And on his little adventure, he meets 3 different animals who help him through some really challenging situations. And in the process, they empower Ralphie with these mindfulness techniques that... Could you tell us a bit more about the illustrator and what their background is and how they got into illustrating?
Sure. So I am a design and project manager and I do quite a bit of freelance work in illustration world. Favourite types of projects are the children's books. And I got into this a couple of years ago when I was working as an architect, but decided to do a children's book illustration course on the side. So I learned a lot of techniques with different materials and how to develop storyboards and character development. And that was around the same time that Sal came up with the idea of A Rabbit's Tale. And a couple of years later, here we are. So Sal, as the author, can you tell us a bit about your background and how you came to write this book?
Yeah, sure. So my background is actually in primary school teaching, which I've done for the last 10 years or so. And I've had sort of a developing interest in well-being. And as a result of that, I've done some mindfulness teaching courses and some EFT tapping courses and meditation courses and that kind of thing, which I love to do for myself, but I also love to share it with other people. And I have always thought that books are a great way to teach a message in a fun, engaging way, which I know kids can connect well with. So that's sort of how this book came.
So Sal, what was the inspiration for writing this book?
I think, Kat, having worked with many kids over my years as a primary school teacher, we can quite often, or even as parents or teachers or just adults in general, we can quite often say things like, just calm down, but we don't often actually teach the skill of how to calm down. So that was sort of the main inspiration behind wanting to write this book and share these messages and share these very simple and effective tools that can actually help us to calm down when we practice them regularly. So how did you illustrate the pictures? What techniques did you use to create them?
So it's quite an involved process to illustrate a children's book. You initially start with a storyboard, so you take all of the words that that Sal had written, and you draw it out, and you try and work out how you can have some highs and lows, zoomed in pictures, zoomed out pictures. You develop the characters, and I start doing this with simple pencil and paper, and then my process is actually to take it into the computer. So I'm a digital artist. When I'm creating these artworks, which is a skill that I've developed over the last couple of years. And there I can use all sorts of paintbrushes and pencils, watercolour or oil paints, different techniques to develop the style and the characters that you see here in the book.
How long did it take to make the book?
Well, Sal, I think you came up with the idea about 4 years ago, and you first told me about it when we were on a family holiday, and it was just sort of an idea. I think you started with sort of a 5,000 word document that you whittled away over the years between kids and various other things to about 500 word story, and then I took it and created the picture book. So it's been quite a long process to get to where we are now, which is really exciting.
Definitely. I think the hardest part... So do you have any other books, and do you plan on making more?
I would love to make plenty more books over a lifetime. I have 2 other books that I worked on with another author, one called What Came Through the Window and the other one Ducks Down the Drain. There is a real theme here where there's always animals and lots of landscapes involved, as you'll see in A Rabbit's Tale, which is my favourite kind of book to illustrate.
And I know my daughters absolutely love these books, so I can highly recommend them. I actually have a couple of books that are in the making. So A Rabbit's Tale was my first, and I've got another book about mindfulness and movement and mantras and using positive affirmations that's in the making, as well as a book about a little girl called Rosie, who I can introduce you to now. She is a little tapping doll, and she helps to teach kids through this book about how to use EFT tapping as a wellbeing tool to help them calm nerves and face their fears as well.
So Sal, where can you buy your book?
So A Rabbit's Tale is currently available on your website, katbuchanan.com, on my website, dailypractice.com, and that's daily practice with an S-E, S for sunflower, and it's also available on the Morris Publishing website, and it's also in a number of stores which are in Victoria, New South Wales, and even New Zealand. So we'll have a list of the stores that you can find A Rabbit's Tale in for you as well.
Cool. Thanks, Sal, and thanks everyone for listening to how we created A Rabbit's Tale.
Thanks, Kat. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Ciao for now.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. I do have one more bonus question, and that is, was there an intended message from the author? Yes, there was, and I'm actually going to read you 2 lines from the book, which help to explain that. And this is actually when Al is speaking to Ralphie just before he decides to run away from home. And Al says, "Ralphie, dear rabbit, don't just give up and go. There are things you can do to feel better, you know." So I guess the main message of the story, or the moral of the story, is that there are always things that you can do to help yourself feel better, no matter how tough things might get. And the power always lies with you.